must follow. This is reality, yes I know. When you lead, the blessings follow.
Yes, Shalom Aleichem. Are you ready, my brothers and sisters, for the Kingdom Road? Well, this is the time, this is the hour of the Kingdom Road radio show, and you are tuned in. And this is your host, your brother in the Messiah, Joseph Israel. And I'm very thankful to be here today. And this show is going to be on the Promised Land. And I definitely want to start this show thinking about my brothers and sisters, our brothers and sisters in the state of Oklahoma. I have many family members in the state of Oklahoma, family of the flesh and family of the spirit, and I really pray for them all, and pray for all those that have been affected by the storm. And I really would just like everybody to know that if you would like to donate to the cause, you could go to Messianic Lamb Radio, which you're tuned into, and there is a link there to donate to the cause, because there's a bunch of things that need to be done to rebuild and restore people's lives. And any contribution we can all make will make a difference, even if it's a small difference. A bunch of people making a little difference makes a big difference. And so we must remember those in need, and most importantly, to pray for them. And what a blessing that this station has been able to set up a network where people could reason about that and even offer help if they can. So but yeah, today we're going to talk about the Promised Land and how fitting it is to think about the Promised Land when the Most High has promised a beautiful kingdom, a beautiful earth, and the beautiful Promised Land. There's so many promises that go along with this. And when you see the earth, just like with this storm that took place this week, this terrible storm, that something is terribly off balance, something really off on some way, and that in his kingdom, in his due time, it will be a land of prosperity. And he never intended for it to be this way. And so when this, just praying for a day when the earth is balanced and everything is beautiful, and nothing like this will ever happen again. And so yeah, considering this, we have to look at the earth. We have to consider everything that the Most High has promised. This earth is so wonderful, and yet there is things that are going wrong, including the way man treats man. Man to man is so unjust, because honestly, people they're more concerned for themselves, and they don't look out for their brother, their neighbor. And many people are not seeking their Creator. And so the beginning of wisdom is the fear of Yahweh, or to seek the Almighty. And the type of people that he is calling out are actually the humble ones. And the prophet Zephaniah tells us, speaking of the last days, the days when the system, this world, the system of the devil is coming to an end, and the reign of evil will be over. But we have to come through a fiery trial. It says in Zephaniah 2, verse 3, "Seek Yahweh, all you meek ones of the earth, who have practiced his own righteous decisions. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. Probably you may be concealed in the day of Yahweh's anger." So these humble ones, that we seek meekness. None of us are perfect, and so we must seek meekness, seek righteousness, that perhaps we might be concealed on his day, because it's going to be through his mercy and his loving kindness that anyone is spared, and this is a favor and a gift from the Almighty. But when we seek his righteousness, to keep his commandments, to practice his right decisions, and live according to his laws, put his laws in our heart, this will allow us to be blessed. And Psalms 37, verse 9 and verse 11 put together says this: "Those hoping in Yahweh are the ones that will possess the earth. The meek ones themselves will possess the earth. They will indeed find their exquisite delight in the abundance of shalom, in abundance of peace." So this is the Promised Land we're looking at. This is the promised blessing the Almighty has promised, and those who are hoping in Yahweh, they will inherit the earth. There will be a beautiful day of reckoning when everything will be made right. So my brothers and sisters, as is always promoted on this radio station, Messianic Lamb Radio, that is a lifestyle of hope that we're here to promote. And it's not really a style, but it's a way of living, a way of life of hope. Because when you have hope, you have something to live for. Now, hope is the assurance, it's like of things not seen. We have faith. Faith is the assurance of things not seen, things hoped for. We don't hope for something that we've already gotten. So we hope for the kingdom. We hope for the promised land. Now, today last week, if you haven't listened to last week, you should go and look on the archives of the Joseph Israel, the Messianic Lamb Radio, / Joseph Israel, and you're going to find out that we talked about the Israel of promise. And so I felt that talking about the promised land that was given to the Israel of promise would be fitting to come after, because these are the promises of the living Elohim. He promised all these promises to Israel. He promised them the promised land, and they did inherit the promised land, and then now they've been removed from the promised land, and now what most people consider the promised land, which was the promised land and still is the promised land, or I would like to call it the Holy Land, or the set apart land, because the Almighty used the land for his purpose over on the Jordan River, where Jerusalem is in the Middle East, which they call Israel today, and actually was called Israel by the Almighty, but it's not fully restored to what it once was. That was a small portion of what the promised land is. The promised land will include that, but I'm going to show you today how the promised land will include the whole earth, because as I read in the Psalms, those that hope in Yahweh will possess the earth. And then it says in Zephaniah, seek Yahweh, all you meek ones of the earth. So these meek ones, those that hope in Yahweh, these are the Israel. These are the Israelites. These are the Israelites of promise. Yahweh has never dealt with any other nation. He's only dealt with Israel. And last week we went over how Israel are now being gathered according to not just their bloodline, but according to their heart condition. It's actually a heart condition that he's looking for. That's why it says the new covenant is going to be written on our hearts. And so now he's calling people out of all tongues, tribes, and nations together to serve him. And this is actually happening. We're seeing it worldwide, a worldwide movement and an uprising of people seeking your way and coming to understand about Yahshua the Messiah, who has given his life for us and opened the door to life so that the humble ones can once again possess the earth. So this is a really beautiful time and age we're living in, at the end of the system of corruption, the end of the system of greed and selfishness, and the opening up to the paradise earth, the promised land. So, I'm not just going to talk about it. I'm going to show you in the Word, because it sounds good, you might say, but show me in the Scriptures where you're saying is what it says, because it doesn't matter what a man says, because I would never put my trust in man, and it actually tells us in the Scriptures that cursed is the one who puts his trust in man. And so I actually always would love everybody to test the spirits for yourself, to test it out for yourself and see if it is true. And if anything I'm talking about you would like to learn more on, or you would have questions, you can email me through Lamb Radio, or you can email me at lionsofisrael@hotmail.com, or you can contact Joseph Israel on Facebook, and I will do my best to get to you. Also, there's Lions of Israel YouTube channel, so I'm out there. I do my best to make myself accessible to people, and I love getting the emails from people, and I get so many, I can't get to all of them sometimes, but I do my best. So if I don't respond, don't feel any way just to write again, and maybe I'll get it that time. So I do my best, though. So Lions of Israel at Hotmail, and Joseph Israel on Facebook, Lions of Israel YouTube, or through Lamb Radio. Any questions and comments, I would always love and appreciate. So today we're going to start in Romans chapter 9. So I'm turning there. I got a couple translations. We went over a little bit of this last week about the Israel of promise, and we're going to start at the top, though. It says this: This is out of the Word of Yahweh translation. It says, in the truth, I say the truth in the Messiah, I lie not. That's Romans chapter 9, verse 1. I say the truth in the Messiah, I lie not. My conscience also bearing me witness in the Holy Spirit, that I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. For I wish that myself were accursed from the Messiah for my brethren, my kinsmen according to the flesh, who are the Israelites, to whom pertains the adoption, the honor and the covenant, and the giving of the law, the service of Elohim, and the promises. Okay, so the Israelites of old, the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the 12 tribes of Israel, were the ones that were given the covenant, the Torah, the services of Elohim, how to worship him, and the promises. So this everything he gave unto Israel, and the Messiah came through Israel, and this is what is so beautiful. Paul was really feeling it for Israel because at this point, most of the nation had missed the Messiah, which was the goal. The end result, the goal of the Torah was to lead us to the Messiah, to train us to see the Messiah, and they were missing it. And so Paul was really feeling it, and he was actually would that himself be cut off from the blessings if it could save his whole nation. That's how humble Paul is. How sad it is that people actually try to make it sound like Paul was didn't have love for his own people, when Paul was like one of the most beautiful Israelites of the flesh and Israelites of the promise to ever walk the earth. In my opinion, I think he was one of the greatest teachers and person who expounded upon the scriptures in the most wonderful way. And within his books, you'll find explanations of the Torah and the prophets full of the Holy Spirit. He was a really blessed man through the revelation of Yahshua Messiah. So anyways, in that verse 4 of Romans 9, it says, who are the Israelites? The ones according to his flesh, the Israelites, to whom pertains the adoption and the honor and the covenant and the giving of the law and the service of Elohim and the promises. So the promises has to do with the promised land. So now we see that. Let's go to the promises. Let's start with Genesis 12. Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. Now Yahweh had said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindreds and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and you shall be a blessing, and I will bless them that bless thee and curse them that curse thee, and thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. So this is the beginning of the calling out of our forefather Abraham. He was called out. He was the first one to come out of Babylon, to come out of this world, to serve the one true Elohim. And he was promised he would go to a land that the Most High would show him. That's the promised land. He says he will bless him and make a great nation out of him. This is actually Israel. Israel are the ones that follow, are children of Abraham. He'll bless them that bless him, and actually in Abraham shall all the families of the earth be blessed. So we see here also that it includes all the families of the earth. So that must mean it's a very wide scope blessing here, because all the families of the earth. We just read in Psalms 37 verse 9 and 11 that it's those that hope in Yahweh that will inherit the earth or possess the earth, the meek that will inherit the earth. Zephaniah was calling out to all the meek ones of the earth to seek Yahweh. So, and Abraham's blessing, his promise was that through Abraham would all the families of the earth be blessed. So here we have, he was promised this land, and he was promised that it would be a blessing to all the people of the earth. So Isaac was also given many blessings. And if we turn, before we get to Isaac, actually, let's when Isaac was about to be born, the Almighty said this in if you go to Genesis chapter 17, verse let's see here. Verse 5. Neither shall your name be any more called Abram, but your name shall be called Abraham. For father of many nations have I made thee. I will make thee exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. And I will establish my covenant between me and my seed, me and thee and thy seed, after thee and their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be an Elohim unto thee and to thy seed forever. I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land where thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their Elohim. So, okay, all of a sudden, this is beautiful. Now he made it more clear, the land of Canaan. So what is the land of Canaan? Now, the land of Canaan is the promised land, and this is what most people think it is, the land of Israel, the land, the Holy Land, and it has certain boundaries that you'll find in some of the promises, but what I'm here to talk about is actually, it was just a type, it was a picture, and it was an example of something greater, which was going to include the whole earth. So, let's... Before we're going to come back to the land of Canaan, the Canaan land, but right now we're still going to continue on with the blessings. Let's go to Genesis chapter 28, and we're going to skip over all the way to Jacob, who had his name changed to Israel, and this is a dream, a vision that he had. Verse 12 of Genesis 28, and he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of Elohim ascending and descending on it. And behold, Yahweh stood above it and said, I am Yahweh Elohim of Abraham thy father, the Elohim of Isaac. The land where you liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall spread abroad to the west, and to the east, and to the north, and to the south, and in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. Okay. So here we have no boundaries to the land that was given to our forefather Jacob. It said, let's just read that one more time. The land where you liest, that was the Canaan land, the land of promise, the typical land of Israel, which people still know as the Holy Land, which is the Holy Land. This was given to him and to his seed. But in Genesis 28:14, right under that, it says, and your seed shall be as the dust of the earth. Basically, you can't count the dust of the earth. And shall spread abroad to the west, the east, the north, and the south. Okay, so there's to the four directions Israel was going to spread out throughout the earth to cover the world, the whole earth. And in thee and in thy seed shall all families of the earth be blessed. So again, this promised land that Jacob was a part of receiving, and his seed would receive. I'm bringing out that these are the same ones that are the meek, those seeking your way and hoping your way, that will inherit, possess the land, and through Israel will all the families of the earth be blessed. This is the purpose of the Most High. This is his promise. This is what he is. This is why this is the hope that we have as Israelites, for the whole earth to be blessed, all the families of the earth to be blessed. So, if you know what happened to Israel, they were in Jacob's time. They left the land of Canaan, went back into Egypt. They went to Egypt. Abraham had gone to Egypt for a moment. They went back to the Canaan land. Jacob and his sons entered into Egypt with Joseph. Then Israel, over time, 430 years, they were in slavery. They exodused out, spent 40 years in the wilderness, and then after that, they, through Joshua, who was a type of Yahshua, the true Messiah, there's something beautiful there too, how Moses didn't take the Israelites into the promised land, but a man named Joshua or Yeshua did. And that shows also something very special, that there's something more that was needed. The prophet that was to come after Moses, that Yeshua pictured, the great Mashiach, would be the one that would take Israel into the promised land. Israel went into the promised land, and they went astray many times. Sometimes they were taken captive. It was a bumpy road. It was righteous during King David's time and Solomon's time. And then it was a bumpy road again. Many different kings. Many were unrighteous. Some were righteous. The prophets were there warning them all the time. And in the days of Jeremiah, Israel was taken away captive to Babylon. And never again did Israel have a king on the throne of David ruling as a sovereign nation. They were always a part of Persia or Greece or Rome, and then now it's just a part of the world. So it's just something to really consider here, because the promised land is not lost, my brothers and sisters. And the reason why it failed, so to speak, is because it wasn't the fullness of the Most High. It wasn't including the whole earth at that time. The Most High's purpose, his secret purpose, he has a plan, a revelation that he was going to reveal in the last days. And like Paul said, it's not as though the word of your way has failed. Not all the descendants of Israel are his descendants. I'm going to read it actually in Romans chapter 9. It says it just like this. I'm not implying that the word of Elohim has fallen, for all those who are from Israel, these are not all Israel. Nor because they are the seed of Abraham are they all children. But in Isaac shall thy seed be called. That is, the children of the flesh, these are not of God. But the children of the promise are counted for the seed. Okay, so it's not just that you're fleshly descendant that you would be considered that. And it's not just the promised land that most people think is the promised land. It's actually going to be the whole earth. So even though Israel was scattered, if we turn to Jeremiah chapter 30, we're going to find out that Israel was promised a great return to the promised land. They were taken away, and they were promised that they would be brought back, and it would actually be more blessed than ever before, and it would be an everlasting possession. And we're going to actually take a short break right now, and then we will be back with more on the promised land. You are tuned in to Messianic Lamb Radio, the Kingdom Road Radio Show, and this is Joseph Israel. I'll be here when you get back. Enjoy the music.
You're listening.
On February 1st, 2013, a new online magazine hit the virtual newsstand shelves. Harvest Mag is geared towards the young people of the Messianic Hebrew Roots lifestyle.
Harvest Mag's mission is to encourage, challenge, and inspire young people to stay strong in their faith,
Share their convictions boldly with others,
walk out the biblical model of a young man or woman,
and have a deeper and more personal relationship with their Creator.
We strongly believe that the Scriptures contain all that is needed to make wise and biblical decisions in today's world. Articles are packed with insightful and practical application aimed to share the truth of the Scriptures.
Harvest Mag discusses real-life issues and challenges that youth face every single day. We greatly desire to encourage youth to intentionally live out their faith in today's confusing world.
So check out Harvest Mag right now to view the latest issue and see how you can get involved at harvestmag.com. That's harvestmag.com.
Welcome back to the Kingdom Road Radio Show, live here on Messianic Lamb Radio, promoting a lifestyle of hope.
Lamb Radio is located 2 miles south of Moore, Oklahoma. 2 of the largest tornadoes in recorded history destroyed that city. One of these tornadoes happened only days ago. It was on the ground for 45 minutes and devastated property for 30 miles. Lamb Radio is aware of 11 Messianic families that live right in the path of the first half of that storm. We put emphasis on live because every member of these 11 families made it through the storm with their lives and property. Only one had damage to their dwelling and vehicle. To show you just how close this storm has come to affect Lamb, the son of one of the producers here at Lamb Radio is in the National Guard and is helping to find victims, both dead and alive, from the devastation. We need to lift up Chris Matthews of Cashew Ankh Broadcast and his son in prayer. God and only the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is good. Lamb Radio was not touched. Only the internet was down for a few hours, causing a lapse in broadcasting. The next morning, Lamb was back up and running strong just in time for Messianic Morning Prayers broadcast that we do every Tuesday and Thursday. Help us to pray for the men and women and children who not only lost their homes and property and their jobs, but many of the families who lost loved ones in this epic catastrophe. There is a link on the Lamb Radio page at www.messianiclambradio.com where you can financially donate to help these victims in the name of Lamb Radio. Thank you for your continued support.
Kept in economic prison. What is the solution to mankind's problems? There will be no oppression in Jah kingdom. There will be no transgression. Yeah. Your garments, set your mind to the land of promise. See you living with equality, cause we are children of the Almighty, living in communities. That's the way it's supposed to be, yeah. Living in true harmony, raising our families. There will be no oppression in Jah's kingdom. The promises from Jah Jah, they are for sure. There will be no sick or no elderly, no rich, no poor. There will be no homeless when all is restored. With your knowledge and your faith, you have to endure and deal with righteousness forevermore. Long day, you deal with righteousness forevermore. There will be no oppression in Jah's kingdom.
Yes, the hope of the kingdom. You are tuned into the Lamb, Messianic Lamb Radio, and this is your host, Joseph Israel, and we are talking about the Promised Land. And today, where we left off was we were going to Jeremiah 30. So I'd like to have everybody to turn there. I'm already there. Jeremiah 30 says this. Yahweh, verse 1. We're going to start with verse 1 through 4. The word of Yahweh came unto Jeremiah, saying, Thus speaks Yahweh Elohim of Israel, saying, Write all the words that I have spoken unto thee in a book. For lo, the days come that Yahweh says that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, says Yahweh, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their forefathers, and that they should possess it. And these are the words that Yahweh spoke concerning Israel and concerning Judah. Okay, so we just talked about the land that was given to Abraham. He said he would give him a land that he would show him. Abraham did live in the promised land. He walked around the land of Canaan. It was later called that. And we know there was types and examples, but then later on it was made even more clear that actually in Genesis 28, verse 14, that Jacob and his seed actually would spread to the north, south, east, and the west, and basically the whole earth, and without any boundaries set, and that it would be a blessing to all families of the earth. That also fulfills, includes the promises given to Abraham, that through Abraham would all the families of the earth be blessed. So here we're talking about Israel was actually given the typical promised land. They lived there for many years, and actually they were scattered abroad. But Yahweh tells Jeremiah was the prophet in the time when Jerusalem was being destroyed, and the last tribes that were there, the Jews, were being scattered to Babylon for the most part. And so what a comforting message it was to the prophet to find out that the Most High was going to bring back the captivity, it says here. But actually, if you read in the JPS translation, it's even better. I think it says, For the days are coming, declares the Lord, Yahweh, when I will restore the fortunes of my people Israel and Judah, says the Lord Yahweh, and I will bring them back to the land that I gave their fathers, and they shall possess it. And these are the words that Yahweh spoke concerning Israel and Judah. So this promise, this land that he gave to their fathers, so that should be highlighted there. He's going to restore the fortunes. Israel was once a nation. They were a sovereign nation. They were a set-apart nation. They were a nation of kings and priests. They had Yahweh's Torah, Yahweh's covenant. He dealt with them like he dealt with no other nation, and he's going to restore that connection with his people. And now he's calling his people out of all nations, tongues, and tribes to be this nation of Israel, and how blessed is the nation whose Elohim is Yahweh. So, but where is he going to bring them back? He's going to bring them back to the land or the earth that he gave their fathers. These promises to their fathers was the promises given to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And we found out Jacob was actually given the whole earth and to be a blessing with the whole earth. So that's where I'm saying the promised land is the whole earth, and they shall possess it. And see, if you actually take that, or they will inherit it, or they will possess it. Now, when you possess something, no one's ever going to take it from you. Okay? And that's where, right where we read at the beginning, Psalms 37 says, verse 9, those hoping in Yahweh are the ones that will possess, and what they're going to possess the earth. So obviously these are his people. These are Israel. He's going to restore them. He's going to give them the land that was given to Jacob. It was the whole earth. And they are the meek ones that will possess the earth. Yahshua, the Messiah, the King of Israel, said, Blessed are the meek, they will inherit the earth. So this is the restoration of Yahweh's holy nation. Now it's going to be a greater and bigger nation. It's going to be a greater and bigger kingdom than was ever before. Yahshua the Messiah, it rules from above. He is actually a greater king than King David. He's a greater prophet than Moses. He's the greatest of all. And that's why he's the Mashiach. He's the one that they were all hoping for. And actually, he's the one that leads the restoration. And so if you turn to the book of Acts, chapter 3, verse 18 through 21, it says, But Elohim has thus fulfilled what he foretold by the mouth of all the prophets, that his Mashiach should suffer. Repent or return to Shuvah, therefore, and turn, that your sins may be blotted out, so that seasons of refreshment may come from the presence of the Master. of your way. And he shall sin before, and he may sin before having been, let me see, this translation is a little funny. And he may send him having been before destined for you, Yahshua Mashiach, who indeed the heavens must retain till the times of restoration of all things which Elohim spoke by the mouth of his holy prophets from of old. Okay, so what's he going to restore? All the things that were prophesied by the prophets of old, including he's going to bring back the land of Israel, the children of Israel, the children of Judah from the land of their captivity, from this system that we're living in is a captivity. We're in exile right now. The kingdom hasn't taken over on the earth. And actually what we're talking about is blessed are the meek, they will inherit the earth. And Yahweh's kingdom is actually going to be the whole earth, because it says in many places, it says the earth abides forever. It says the earth is Yahweh's and the fullness thereof and all that dwells therein. It says Yahweh is enraged with all the nations and is doomed them all to destruction, but he's going to allow his people and those that cleave to the house of Israel to survive. And so we're going to find out that when he restores Israel, it brings a worldwide blessing, and it's greater than a small piece of land that people are fighting over today, even though it will include that. Now, I'm not saying that it's not going to include what people call, which I call the Holy Land, which was used where Joshua walked, where King David walked, Samuel, where the prophets lived. This land will always be very special and will be loved by everyone, and it will be a part of the land that the meek inherit. But the meek will inherit the whole earth, and this will be so beautiful. Now, I would like you to turn to Isaiah 14, and we'll go a little deeper into this. It's all as it says, Joshua has come to fulfill at the time of restoration all the things that were promised or prophesied by the holy prophets of old. Okay. So we turn to Isaiah 14. In the word of Yahweh translation, it says, and Yahweh, verse 1, and Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. So I'm actually going to read this in this JPS, Jewish Publication Society translation. I like it a lot. It has the Hebrew on one side. It allows you to study a little deeper into it. But I think the basic truth is in all the translations. It just, sometimes they mess up a little bit here and there. But it says this: Yahweh will pardon Jacob and will again choose Israel and will settle them on their own soil, okay, or their own land, their own earth. If you know that the land was given to their forefathers, so he will pardon Jacob, he'll forgive them, or he will have mercy on them. Okay, he will again choose Israel. So this means the restoration of Israel. He says through Jeremiah that I will restore the fortunes of Israel and bring them back to the land that I swore to their fathers. And here he says, I will have mercy on Jacob and will choose Israel and set him in their own land. Now their own land is the whole earth, because it's what was given to Jacob. This was already promised to him. The meek will inherit the earth. Now why is it going to be considered their own land? It's because it's going to be a system, a condition, a place, a nation, a kingdom where they feel comfortable, where you feel at home. There will be no more sorrow or sickness or pain, but it will be a paradise condition, a place where people can truly flourish. And this system, in this world today, it's hard for people with good hearts to flourish. It's hard for anybody. But if we really consider it, even just with this terrible storm that took place, how sad, to see what happens. And part of the thing that's going on the earth today is man is lost, and we've lost touch with our Creator, and there's many things that are going against his will and the way he created things, and so many bad things happen, including war and violence. And this storm was very terrible, and no one deserved anything like that to happen. But all we can do is try to learn from it, and try to seek our Creator more, and pray for His guidance and His protection, and that His will be done on this earth, as Joshua taught us to. For, O Yahweh, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And this is the earth he's going to give to the meek, the humble, the children of Israel, the children of promise, the promised land. All right. So this is your host, Joseph Israel, and you are tuned in to Kingdom Road Radio. We're going to take a break, and I'll be right back with you in a minute.
You're listening to the Kingdom Road Radio Show on Messianic Lamb Radio, promoting a lifestyle of hope.
This is a message from Hope Again International. Children are the hope of our future. They are our future. Hope Again International is a performing arts nonprofit organization whose purpose is to rescue and restore children to their right to life. We partner locally as well as internationally with victims of human trafficking in efforts to eradicate this rapidly growing epidemic. Our heart is to honor children by embodying the performing arts to create a message and ultimately create change. Together, we can open the eyes and ears of our hearts to see and hear the identity and voices of the many lives in bondage. Hope Again International loves and operates through the following branches: rescue, restoration, education, legislation, medical care, equipping, and the arts. We can be the branches of hope that reaches all nations. Please contact us at hopeagaininternational.org.
Welcome back to the Kingdom Road Radio Show, live here on Messianic Lamb Radio, promoting a lifestyle of hope.
Said I know we can make a change for the better. That's right. There's a better way. Now is the day that we have a time. Don't let it slip away. You can make the change in all your life. Be an example, shine the light. Oh, oh, there's a better way. Now is the day that we have a time. Don't let it slip away. You can make the change in all your life. Be an example, shine the light. Well, take it to heart. Everything in the world plays its part. Remember Lot's wife turned to a pillar of salt. Nothing they could do to stop this from reaching you. Seeking for see how you want, you know just what to do. Many called and the chosen few, but no matter what you have, remember him that gave his life for you, so you could take your stand, and then you'll overstand the universal covenant he made with Abraham. There's a better way. Now is the day that you have a time. Don't let it slip away. You can make a change in all your life. Be the example and shine your light. Oh, oh, there's a better way. Now is the day that you have a time. Don't let it slip away. We can make this change in all your life. Be the example and shine the light. Well, government skill they will take away. Like Sodom and Gomorrah, they're corrupt in other ways. Don't you be confused and don't be captivated. The lifestyle that they choose is completely overrated. They murder, they rob, they rape and abuse. On top of it all, the earth they pollute. The preacher, the teacher, and the recruit. Well, all of them are running from the rising of the truth. There's a better way. Now is the day that you have a time. Don't let it slip away. You can make a change in all your life. Be an example, shine the light. Oh, oh, there's a better way. Now is the day that you have a time. Don't let it slip away. Hey, hey. You can make a change. Yeah. out of one, so as one we must live. One God, one King, one righteous community. Once lost, now found. Everybody know their duty. Many roads, many rivers, it's up to your choosing. One leads to life, the other you lose. And rejoice and proclaim your cry was not in vain. Well, I may fade away, but His word remains the same. There's a better way. Now is the day that you have the time. Don't let it slip away. You can make the change and not your life. Be the example, so shine the light. Oh, oh, there's a better way. Now is the day that you have the time. Don't let it slip away. You can make the change and not your life. You are the example, so shine the light. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. There is a better way. And I know we could make the change. We could said I know, said I know, said I know. There's a better way. Now is the day that we have the time. Let it slip away. You can make the change and not your life. Be the example and shine the light. That's our light. A better way. A better way. A better way. A better way. There's a better way. Now is the day that we have the time. Don't you let it take you away.
Yes, my brothers and sisters, you are tuned into the Lamb, Messianic Lamb radio station, and this is the Kingdom Road radio show. And today we are talking about the Promised Land and how the Promised Land, the Holy Land, the land of Israel, was a type of that the whole earth was going to be given to the humble, the true Israelites in the very end of the last days, when the the time of restoration of all things spoken of by the holy prophets comes to pass. The Messiah was one of the things that was spoken of by the holy prophets. What the Messiah would do would be to restore all things that were actually lost in Adam. And Adam lost a paradise earth and a perfect life in a paradise earth, and the Messiah comes to restore that perfect life in a paradise earth. Abraham was promised, as we read in Genesis 12:1, that through him and his seed would all the families of the earth be blessed. And we also read in Genesis 28 verse 12 through 14 that Jacob would be given the land where he was lying on, and that actually him and his seed would spread to the north, the south, the east, and the west, which would inherit the whole earth basically. And actually all families of the earth would be blessed through him. And we read it, the prophet Jeremiah was given the message to share with us that Israel was going to be restored, and they were going to get the land that was and possess the land that they was sworn to their fathers, that Yahweh promised, and we know that as the Promised Land. And then we read here in Isaiah 14 that Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob in verse 1 of 14, and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. That is the Promised Land. And it's, as we've already proven, that this is actually in the greater fulfillment at the time of the restoration of all things. It will be the whole earth. And to show you verse 7, this beautiful chapter, and maybe one of the shows we'll go over this whole chapter, and it's speaking of it after Babylon's system has fallen and the king of Babylon, who is the devil, has been done away with. What happens is that the earth is given to Israel. Those that fear Yahweh will possess the earth, and Israel means those that are striving for Elohim's blessings, and it's coming from the heart condition that they have. And when this kingdom of Yahweh is in full effect, verse 7 says, the whole earth is at rest and is quiet, and they break forth into singing. So this is the condition worldwide. This is his universal purpose for the entire planet Earth. And so though, yes, there is the Promised Land of old, and it will always be the Holy Land, and will be the place where this all began, the kingdom of Yahweh is like a tiny mustard seed that will grow and fill everything. You know, it starts in a small place, it will eventually cover everything. The knowledge of Yahweh will cover the earth as the waters covers the sea. He's given us so many things to let us know that Yahweh so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. So this is all these things show us that it's a huge universal purpose, as the song Better Way says, the universal covenant he made with Abraham to be a blessing to all families of the earth. And that's what we're here talking about today. The message of hope, the message of faith, the message of truth that is for the whole earth. Yahshua the Messiah tells us in Matthew 24:14, he says, "And this good news of the kingdom shall be spread throughout all the nation as a witness unto all nations." I'm actually going to read it to you. I was just quoting it. It says, "And the good news of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world as a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come." So the whole earth, this message will be spread throughout the whole earth, and then the end will come. Now it's the good news of the kingdom. What is the kingdom? This is the promised system. This is the promised government, Yahweh's government, where he set up Yahshua as the king. And Yahshua will set up princes under him, because Isaiah says a king will reign in righteousness. Princes will rule in justice. Each of them will be a shelter from the storm. There's going to be more. I'm going to explain more about that, and more of the functions of the kingdom. But Yahshua also said that his bride would be with him, and that they would rule together. So they actually rule from the heavens over the earth. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And this is going to be a universal blessing. And actually, at the end of Matthew, the last chapter, Yahshua says this. He says, in verse 18 of Matthew 28, it says, "And Yahshua came and spoke unto them, saying, All authority is given to me in heaven and earth." Okay, so Yahshua has even more authority than all the earth. He actually has the heavenly authority. Yahweh's given him everything. He's the one that Yahweh's put the whole heavens and the earth in his hands. Yahshua is the Father's right hand man, so to speak. "Go ye therefore and teach all nations, and baptize them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you, and that I am with you always, even unto the end of the world," the end of the system. Amen. So Yahshua will be with you. He will be with all his people. He will be with Israel. And we will be making disciples and teaching people of this beautiful truth, that Yahweh is sent his Son, and that there's a kingdom coming, and that these governments of man are failing, and that they're going to fail, and there's no hope in them. And as long as we don't put our trust in them, we won't be disappointed as they're failing all around us. And the promise is, the message of hope is that the humble, those that are seeking Yahweh, as Zephaniah says, "Seek Yahweh, all you meek ones of the earth, who have practiced his own right decisions. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. Perhaps you may be concealed in the day of Yahweh's anger." So these are the things that he wants. So let us seek Yahweh, and let us know that his purpose, his promises are coming true, and that those that are hoping in Yahweh, the Psalms teach us, will possess the earth. The meek will inherit the earth. The good news of the kingdom will be spread throughout the earth as a witness unto all nations, and then the end will come. The end of what? The end of this unjust system and the setting up of the land of Canaan. Canaan, actually, we're going to have to do this in another Kingdom Road radio show, but the land of Canaan actually means commerce or trade, and so this has to do with the way the system is going to run. It's a promised system, a trade where people will actually prosper. In this world, commerce, man has to serve commerce. It's tough, even pay your bills. You're getting taxed left and right, and still it's not running smoothly. There's no equality for hours worked and quality of work. Actually, they look at in this world is that it's the more you can produce for the least amount of money, and the profit margin, where that's not the way it's supposed to be. So the system will be a servant of mankind. The kingdom will be set up in a way that causes man to prosper, and that will be the Canaan land, which will be the whole earth, as I already brought out. And again, just to say, if you have any questions, you would like to comment, email me at lionsofisrael@hotmail.com, or hit me at YouTube, Lions of Israel on YouTube, Joseph Israel on Facebook, or hit Messianic Lamb Radio, and I would love to talk to you all. So we're going to finish with a little bit more of Isaiah today. Isaiah chapter 60, speaking to the children of Israel. It says in the last days, verse 21, "Your people shall all be righteous. They shall inherit the land forever, or inherit the earth forever. The branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be honored." So the people are going to literally, not only are they going to live on this earth, they're going to live on this earth forever, they're going to possess it. This is everlasting life. Yahshua gave his life for us so that we might have eternal life. And this is what he's going to remove: death and sorrow, sickness, and pain. And Yahweh says, if we turn over to Isaiah chapter 61, he says this, verse 11, as the earth brings forth her bud, and as the garden causes the things that are sown in it to spring forth, so the sovereign Yahweh will cause righteousness and praise to spring forth before all the nations. So Yahweh is going to make a way. He's going to get this message out throughout the earth, and it is actually a universal message that everyone should put in their heart and mind. And he's got something that's going to replace everything in this world. Every tear is going to be wiped off your cheek. There's going to be blessings all around. So in this time when people are hurting, especially our brothers and sisters in Oklahoma and throughout the world, people are crying and sighing. Man is unjust. There's natural disasters. There's wars. And it's a terrible time for many people. And we should pray for one another and pray for the kingdom and pray for Yahweh's will to be done. And continue seeking first his kingdom and his righteousness, that all else may be added unto you. I'm very thankful for the congregations out there and all the households of faith, the people seeking Yahweh and seeking to walk in the Torah, to walk in his light, and may we continue to grow in understanding. And I'm just so thankful for everybody tuning in today to this show, and to know that Yahweh has a promise for you, and a hope for everlasting life, and a hope for this beautiful planet Earth. Wherever you live is part of the promised land. And you will see Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and all the prophets. And all these things will come to pass. The kingdom of Yahweh is at hand, my brothers and sisters. No one knows the day or the hour, but we know the time is near. And let us just keep working for that brighter day when all things will be set correct, set right, and all sorrow, sickness, and pain will be done away with. Because Yahweh says in his kingdom they shall not hurt nor destroy. They will not learn war anymore. For the Torah comes from Zion, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. Until Yahweh be with you. Until next week, this is your host, Joseph Israel, on the Kingdom Road Radio Show, Lamb, Messianic Lamb Radio. I love you. Yahweh be with you. See you soon. Shalom Aleichem.
This is reality. Yes, I know. Blessings follow while we trotting on the kingdom road, we always in the sun, kingdom road, the light of Zion, kingdom road, redemption time has come, kingdom road. Cross over Jordan. Are you ready to meet the promised land? Wisdom is crying, knowledge sings. Famine of Yahweh in the land, kingdom road. We always in the sun, kingdom road.
The teachings and music on Messianic Lamb Radio are made available by the generous donations of listeners like you. Thank you.